Take a deep breath. Now imagine that you are in Paris on an ordinary morning. Nothing is on fire, no one is running. The city is still alive, working, normal. But this is not a video about the revolution. It's about 10 minutes before it starts. A historical recreation of the exact moment when everything still seemed normal, even when it was already impossible to remain the same. As you watch, try to notice the details, the strange silences, the looks that avoid other looks, because history does not change with explosions, it changes in silence. And when those 10 minutes are up, Paris will never be the same again. If you were there, at that particular moment, you would not perceive anything extraordinary, and that is what is most disconcerting. Paris wakes up as always, the sound of the wooden wheels of the carriages scratching the irregular stones of the streets, doors creaking when opened, the smell of hot bread escaping from the bakeries even before the sun fully rises. People yawning, adjusting simple clothes, following paths they already know by heart. The city works, breathe, live. It's an ordinary morning in Paris, and that normality almost seems offensive when you know what's next. In the windows, some women watch the street for longer than usual, as if waiting for something they don't know how to name. In the markets, the conversations are shorter. The coins pass from hand to hand with less noise. There is less laughter. It is not open fear. It's something else, a collective fatigue that finds no words. The curious thing is that no one says, "Today everything changes." No one announces the end of an era. People just keep living, because that's what they've always done. A man hurries across the street, holding a folded piece of paper in his pocket. It doesn't seem important. A child runs after a dog and laughs out loud, a laugh that echoes too much in that strange silence that begins to form between ordinary sounds. A salesperson arranges his products but looks around before calling customers, as if calculating the right time to speak. And if you pay attention, real attention, you'll realize that Paris isn't noisy. It is contained. It's as if the whole city is holding its breath without realizing it. Like when something is about to fall but hasn't fallen yet. Like when a heavy word gets stuck in the throat before it is spoken. Nothing has officially changed, but something no longer fits. People continue to walk the same streets, but they no longer walk with the same lightness. There is an invisible discomfort hanging in the air, a shared sense that normalcy is extending beyond what it should, like a rope stretched too tight, about to break, silent, tense, almost elegant before it collapsed. This is the most deceptive moment in history, because everything still seems safe, everything still seems under control, and that's exactly why no one runs away. Nobody prepares. No one imagines that they are living the last minutes of a world that will no longer exist. As the city follows its slow, almost sleepy pace, time moves forward without asking permission. Every second passes as it has on thousands of other mornings. But this time, he's not just passing by, he's shutting something down. And Paris unknowingly is quietly moving towards the point where normality will no longer be possible. If someone asked at that moment if something strange was happening, most would answer no. At most, they would say that the day seemed heavy, that people were quieter, that the atmosphere was different, nothing concrete, nothing that justified alarm. And this is how the big signs go unnoticed, because they do not present themselves as clear threats. They disguise themselves as routine. On street corners, small groups form and break up too quickly. They are not organized meetings. They are brief, almost accidental encounters. Two people approach, exchange a few words, lower their voices, separate. Those who observe from afar do not see any conspiracy. They only see people talking, but there's something new there. The conversations do not end in laughter. They end in silence. Some stores close early, without explanation. Others open, but with the doors half leaning against it, as if the owner wanted to maintain the appearance of normality without fully committing to it. Eyes cross and turn away quickly. No one sustains eye contact for long. There is a diffuse sense of limit, not panic, not yet, but of saturation. People talk less about the future and more about the now. Tomorrow seems too far away to plan. What matters is to get through the day, solve small pending issues, be home before dark. Simple things, almost banal, but that carry a strange weight. And the most unsettling, no one can pinpoint exactly why. There is no great discourse echoing in the streets. There is no order being given. What exists is a silent collective consciousness that something is not working as it used to. This is where many go wrong when looking at history. They imagine that the signs were obvious, that the collapse was predictable, that it was enough to pay attention. But at that moment, the signs do not ask for attention. They ask for interpretation, and interpretation requires distance, something impossible when you are living in the moment. To those inside, everything seems just uncomfortable, a discomfort that accumulates, that doesn't explode, that doesn't scream, that just remains. And in the meantime, time keeps moving forward. Every minute that passes reduces the options without anyone noticing. A return to normality still seems possible, but it is no longer real. It is an illusion sustained by habit, by the fear of admitting that something needs to change. This is the secret that almost no one realizes. The most important signs in history are those that do not compel anyone to act immediately. They just warn, in silence, that continuing the same is no longer sustainable. And yet, almost everyone chooses to continue, not out of ignorance, but because change is always scarier than enduring a little more. And so, while the signs accumulate without being named, the city moves forward, convinced that there is still time. But time, it has already started to end. Now it's no longer minutes, it's seconds. And what changes is not what you see, it is what you feel. Paris is still whole. The streets still exist. The houses are still standing. But something fundamental has already been crossed. There is an electrical voltage in the air, as before a storm that has not yet fallen, but has already decided to fall. Silence ceases to be neutral. He starts to have weight. Conversations cease in an almost synchronized way, not because someone commands it, but because no one can find suitable words anymore. Eyes are fixed for too long, jaws twitch, hands clench into fists without realizing it. The whole city seems to be leaning forward, as if it were about to take a collective step. This is the instant when everything is already decided, even if nothing has officially begun. The last invisible adjustments happen. People discreetly change places. Some move away from the doors. Others approach the main streets. There are those who feel the urgent need to be present, without knowing why. There is no clear plan, but there is readiness. A silent, dangerous, irreversible readiness. Time slows down in a cruel way. Every heartbeat seems too loud. Each isolated sound, a metal touching stone, a cloth moving, a hurried step, sounds like a warning that is not complete. The world holds its breath. This is where false normality finally gives way. There is no longer any doubt that something will happen. The only uncertainty is when. And that's what makes this moment so tense, the collective awareness that the first gesture is about to be made. It doesn't matter by whom. It doesn't matter where. The trigger doesn't have to be big. It just needs to exist. History at this point is already standing behind the door. If one could freeze time now, one would see a city suspended between two worlds, one that still tries to stay whole, another that already requires being born, and there is no negotiation possible between them. This is the last second of waiting. After that, any action, a step forward, a word said too loudly, a misinterpreted move, will be enough to break the fragile balance that remains. And then the video ends, not with shouting, not with confrontation, not with images of what's next. It ends here just as everything is ready to begin. Because the real beginning of the French Revolution is not the first visible act. It is this invisible instant when silence ceases to be silence and it turns into a decision. And if you've come this far, it's because you've spent those minutes with me. He was silent, observed the details, felt the weight of time about to become history. This channel exists exactly for that. Not to show the impact, but to put you within the instant when everything could still seem normal. If this type of historical recreation, done with care, respect, and depth, makes sense to you, subscribing to the channel is the simplest way to continue living these moments before history changes. In the comments, he writes something simple but sincere. I made it to the end. Or else, the silence before change is frightening. This helps the video reach more people who also enjoy this type of storytelling. And if at some point you felt like you were there, if this silence also held you, leave a like. It's not just a click. It's a sign that this connection has happened. There is a video here on the side that complements this subject. Click and stay with me there.